Alright, we're going to be talking about this asteroid that's coming into our solar system. They're calling it 3IAtlas. And it's an active comet with an unusual chemical composition. This is what interests me. Now, they're saying, and they can see pretty much, I give them credit for being able to see the chemistry. Now, they're saying it's dominated by carbon dioxide, 8-to-1 mixing ratio with water. Highest ever recorded for a comet. Well, it says a high level of CO2 suggests it either formed in a region exposed to unusually high radiation or outside a typical snow line in its parent star system, whatever that means. They're saying it's only way, way out there where there's just nothing but carbon dioxide. I take a whole different approach to this. I say this is biology and it's a body part, and I think I know what it is. Now they're saying it's the third interstellar object to come into our solar system. Unusual chemistry. Now listen to this. First of all, exceptionally high ratio of carbon dioxide. Well, where do you get carbon dioxide? From breathing. And where do you have a lot of water? In your lungs. It suggests a different formation environment than typical. Now listen to this. I don't think they thought it was going to have a tail. While its interstellar object observation confirm it has developed a tail, which is a common feature of comets as they become active. Well, why do they become active? They're being irradiated, being cooked, literally cooked, just as Comet 67P, same thing, which is biology. Now listen to this. This really excites me here. It's turning from reddish to a greenish hue. The object appearance changed from reddish to greener in late September 2025. That's just recently. A phenomena being investigated for its chemical causes. All right, as it gets closer to the sun, it's getting cooked more and more. So the green is red. Well, from red to green, it's not something hard to understand. You're getting more radiation back. Down here was red, you don't get a whole lot of radiation back. You get up to green, you get more radiation back. So it's basically just being cooked more. And that would account for the two different colors. It also could account for two different chemistries. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think it's just getting more radiation back because it's being hit with a higher frequency of radiation. That's what I'm taking from it. This might simulate the radiation from the sun. You see what we're looking at there? Let me home it in the best I can. You see the different colors? This is a lung, and all of that is different color from the blood. Now, I'm turning up the light. Well, we're not seeing a big difference. Sometimes you can see a huge difference in what's being radiated back out. This is 67P, Comet 67P. It's a hip joint, and it's broken right here. Sometimes they break here, sometimes they break here, sometimes they break there, and that's what this is. And it is gassing off, just like 3IAtlas is gassing off right now. When it came around and the sun hit it just in the right way, it was just gushing barbecue gases out of there, because that is where blood was, right in there. There's a huge artery, and these are the gases that are cooking off from the tendon that has these little straps of tendon that run down there. They still have to have little fluids, and they're cooking off because they're just getting cooked. And that's what's happening to to this new one that's coming in. So it's nothing special. It's just another body part as far as I'm concerned. And if they can see it close enough and get a good shot of it like this, they'll see. That's exactly what this is. This is a muscle bundle, and these are the fibers. And when the sun hits it just right in between each one of these is going to shoot out little tiny blasts of vapor, because it's being cooked. Then there's going to be a gigantic artery that just gushes like crazy because it's a gigantic artery full of blood. These have not much, but they still have to have juice in them. That's how they've slipped. All right, this is about 500 feet across, and that's where all of those juices were gushing out of there. You see that? When it hit just right into there, it would just blast all of those barbecue gases out. And astronauts, when they take their spacewalk and they come back in and they take their suit off, they say it smells like steak. I'm not kidding you. Look it up. These are the little slips coming out from where the tendon little flares were. All right, and I showed that. Here they are right here. This is where the little splitzes are coming out. And then that big one from the artery. All right, you saw that. That's the artery. That's the little ones that are going to go everywhere. Wherever they're pointing is where they're going to shoot their juices. And this thing is huge. This is Raleigh, North Carolina, and this is 67P. And it's a hip joint. It's a hip joint. Now, things in space were not as expected. Hearts, Bennu is a heart. It's a heart. They have it back here on Earth. They went and picked up a sample. It's heart sarcomeres. Those are heart sarcomeres. That's the rope bundle of a heart. You cut it off, and then you look down at the bits and pieces, and here's what they are. They're made out of sarcomeres. And these white things are the membranes that layer the sarcomeres. And it's got all the bits and pieces, the DNA, the RNA, the uracil, the amino acids. It is what it is. And they just can't deal with it. And they spent way over $1 billion to do this already. And it's been here for 2 years. And I don't know how much longer they're going to study it before they really think about it. But how can we better understand? Well, I don't know, maybe accept the reality of the situation. And everything that's coming through space. I have meteorites here that came through space that have blood in them. And it's actually reactive to Catalase. I know I've been showing it. I don't know if I showed it in this video or not. But this is the red blood, and this is the vein blood. That's artery blood. What it is, I don't know. I think it probably was... I would have to go with a liver on this one, because a lung, you're usually going to get some holes here and there. A lot of holes normally, because lungs are built like this. Livers are kind of, just a flat piece of liver, and there's a lot of blood in livers. So that's what I would go with liver. Because even a heart could be a heart. Okay, I'm hoping for some comments disagreeing with what I'm saying, and possibly interviews with whoever wants to interview me about this evidence. I could support every word I'm saying. And, I've already done the tests, the DNA, the CAT scans, all that stuff. And I have the stuff right here in my shop. I'm not an unwelcoming guy. And as a matter of fact, I'm doing right now, up in the microscope, is that meteorite, the little tiny one, and it's just saturated with blood. And that little, you see how it's blacked off there? I showed this the other day. Hold on. You see the blacked off stuff and the little white fibers? That's where it was the same as the regular lung. those fibers, but they all burnt off. But see, they're still literally saturated with blood in there. I put a little water in there and just scraped it the other day, not in this spot, I don't know where it was, one of these, but they all got all the holes go in deep, and it's saturated with blood. And that, I'm sure you could get DNA if you went down inside there. And I got a feeling we can get a good catalase reaction. I'm going to do it. Okay, wow. This is that lung that I say came through space. I just put the hydrogen peroxide on here, and now we're going to watch the catalase react. Look at it bubbling. That's the catalase reaction you want to see, that shows that this is biological. Catalase is in every biological thing there is. Plants, animals, and if you see it bubble like that, you know that the catalase enzyme that's in the body, in the blood, is trying to get rid of that extra oxygen, because this is hydrogen peroxide and it carries an extra oxygen with it, and the blood says no, 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 extra oxygens have to go. Look at it bubbling. This came through space, so the catalase is still good. Now, catalase is an enzyme. Enzymes, some of them are not as strong as other ones. Catalase appears to be very, very strong because it survived this entrance into our atmosphere. And that, my friends, is that lung. And that's bubbling, and it's going to come out probably more and more and more, because this goes down deep inside the lung. There's plenty of blood in there, and I think that could be tested. This is amazing. I've been watching this for the last 5 minutes. It's still gurgling out of here. Catalase. Catalase attaches to all the atomic oxygen and turns it into a bubble, and the bubbles go out as a gas. That's how it removes the oxygen. And that's what it's doing right there. It's just going to go on and on forever. I mean, there's got to be a lot of good blood in here. There's a lot of good catalase. And again, catalase is an enzyme. Enzymes are affected by different things, and one of them is temperature. I'm surprised that the temperature didn't destroy the enzymes. But now I've shown you that, and you've seen all of these things. Remember all the things I've shown you. Go through this a couple, 3 times if you have to. This is reality. This is truth. This is what's in space. This is what's coming through space. These are the things they're looking at. Bennu is here on Earth, the components of it, and it is biological, and the same things that are in it are on Mars, these sarcomeres, and they're giant, and they're on Earth. Those sarcomeres, they're everywhere. So all I can say is it's time to ask NASA about this. Why don't you people understand what you see? Don't you have any biologists, anatomists there that can understand this? They know it's got all, they admit to everything I'm saying. Every amino acid basically out of 16 out of 20, I believe. And it's hard to believe that they can't see this, because I've been pushing this as hard as anybody can push, and all that's happened is my channel has gone almost down to nothing. I don't know why. I'm not going to blame anybody, but I think I'm showing some pretty important things people should take an interest in, but for some reason other things seem to do much better, but that's just the way life is right now. I think at some point we're going to have to come around to reality and realize we're living in the universe that mythology spoke of, not the current thinking of, oh, this is just dusting off of these asteroids and meteorites. That's nothing. This is just looks like this, just looks like that. No. Not this time, my friends. Bennu proves the point. All right, love you all. You know, I'm probably going to go with this being a lung because there's a high amount of carbon dioxide, which is what a lung produces, is carbon dioxide. Now, the green is just a glow, to my mind, of transition metals. They claim there's a lot of nickel. Nickel glows green. Nickel sulfate is a green particle. So I'm saying, and they, a lot of them glow green when they get close to the sun. And a lot of this has to do with bone, too. So anyway, okay, another shocker. This is a lung. This is where the air came in. It's stripped down to the alveoli. And everything's stripped off, but it still has the investment at the bottom, which all lungs have. It holds it in position so that it can breathe and stay in the body and not get too far away from where that latch locks it in the body. Every one I have has that. Now, what about this one? It also has this. This is a lung. You see, there's all these alveoli, and I'll explain to you why they're holes, all right, instead of just alveoli. And why is that magnetic? Well, I'm going to explain it to you. And does it have one of these latches? Just like every other lung that I have. If I claim this is a lung, I also claim it came through space. And I also claim it has a latch. And I will show you this. And I also claim that there is quite likely biological material inside that can be extracted from this. It's small enough that it didn't get so hot that everything was destroyed, but it got hot enough to explode out these little pockets. These are exploded out. They're not just, you know, eroded or something. They were overheated and exploded. It came through space and it cooked off. That's why it's magnetic. Meteorites do that. Now, can I show you other ones that have that? Yes, absolutely I can. Right there. That's red blood. That's red blood in what they call an iron meteorite. When I say iron, it's metal. There's all kinds of different metals in there. But blood is blood. And there's the red, and there's the black, and there's this round hole, perfect. And that's a meteorite. And they all have that. This is a meteorite from NASA. You see this? You see that hole right there? And this hole right here? That's this exact same thing as this. This is the same thing. That hole right there and that hole. Or that hole and that hole. You see? And that little bump right in the middle. And they say that's a meteorite. Well, that's fine. But I can tell you what, it's also a bone. Now, I don't know where this came from, but it came in saying the chondrules. I understand the chondrules. Those are the things that are in your skin that let you move and so forth. And they're in anywhere where there's anchors. So they call them chondrules. And there's your artery, and there's your vein. Oldest solid material in the solar system. Well, how do they come up with that? I can tell you what, right there, that's the vein. And this right here is the artery. Now, what this little piece coming off the side, I don't know, it could be branching off. But I would say that's, well, I would absolutely say that is the arterial blood, and this is the vein blood. And these balls are the same balls as in the skin even today. All right, so you saw the balls, and everything there is going to get blood from sooner or later somewhere. So they're finding this piece, and they're saying oldest in the solar system. Well, I don't agree with that. Now, this could be from a lung too, but it doesn't matter. It's this stuff right here. It's interstitium. All right, it's the gooey interstitium. And these are the little balls, you see them? These are the balls that are under your skin that make you be able to do all this kind of stuff. And they have to, there's going to be blood in here somewhere. There's going to be a vein and an artery coming in to push in good blood and pull out the bad blood. All of this has to be surfaced with blood and nutrients and all that stuff. And when everything goes away, all of the red, bloody, gooey stuff, you end up having nothing but balls. You see all those balls right there? They end up being here. The rest is gooey and it just runs off. Now that's what's happening right here. This is over in the United Kingdom. It's just eating away at the wall. And these balls are coming down, and they still have nutritious stuff in them, so some kind of moss or whatever just is eating it. And eventually they'll end up being nothing but little nuts of metals, which is what they're mining now. I know people are telling me, yeah, they're going to be mining that stuff. Well, that's the skin of Mother Earth. And that was what was just laying on top of Mother Earth now, because the outer flesh here has eroded down to a point where everything's down and the balls are just laying there, just like here. So it just eroded down, just like this here. Truth is truth. If you're looking for truth, this is truth. A little hard for the average mind to accept, but you know, you're not an average person, are you? Because trust me, the average person is not even interested in this. I find that very, very difficult to understand, but each to his own. C'est la vie, c'est la guerre, et c'est la mort. Anyway, we will just continue down this path. If you're with me, you're with me. If you're again me, you're again me. Now, there is no with and again. It's either you want to look at it or you don't. It's up to you. Okay, my outstanding friends. Today we're going to be talking about meteorites. I have one in the microscope right here we'll be looking at in a minute. But before we start, they cut meteorites all the time. It's common. Scientific cutting of meteorites is a common practice, and they do this for classification to figure out what's inside that meteorite will determine the characteristics that it is a meteorite, first of all. Secondly, they can determine other things by the density of the metals and so forth, and how smelted it became. And it's literally smelted. Smelting means to refine ores and to burn off basically the stuff that's the organic stuff basically, and leaves the metals. And that's what iron meteorites are. They're metals. They're not just iron, but there's also blood inside them because they were body parts. I'm going to show you this. It's very, very clear. Now, remember this now. This is the Gibeon meteorite. It's frequently cut and acid etched to reveal the characteristic crystalline Widmanstätten pattern. Well, let's take a look at that Widmanstätten pattern. And it's because they put acid on and it reveals the metal's crystalline structure. Okay, if you've been with me at all, you know my claim that there is nothing but biology, and that is biological as well. You say, oh, Roger, come on, that's just a piece of metal. Well, it was a meteorite, but it was biology. When it cooked and smelted, this, I believe, must have been a liver. I would say this was a liver. Why? Who can't explain that, the black and the red? Who can explain it? I can, because it was biology. That black right there is a vein. And that red right there is an artery. You see that? There's no other explanation for those being inside this meteorite. And every meteorite I have seen has it as well. And I have a meteorite right up there in the microscope. It is also a lung, and it is saturated with blood still. And that is a meteorite. I'll show it to you. I showed this the other day in extreme detail. I have other meteorites here too. And every one of them is biological. It's just whatever. There's nothing that isn't biology. Asteroid Bennu is a heart. They picked up a piece of it, brought it back to Earth. It's a heart. Of that, there is no question. It's got all the DNA, the RNA, the amino acids, the uracil, 16,000, I think, organic molecules. It has membranes. It has sarcomeres, which are muscle sarcomeres. It has the phosphates. It has everything because it's a muscle, and it's a heart muscle. And they went way down inside, grabbed it, and brought it back to Earth. And it's been sitting here for 2 years, and they can't wrap their heads around it. You see this? I just want to make this clear. There is literally every metal is in your blood. It's possible to test for 26 or more metals in the blood. It's not a standard practice. They usually test for like 12. But all of these have what's called an oxidation state. And that means that they have electrons are unpaired in both their outermost orbitals and the inner d orbitals. They're close in energy and can be readily lost. And they transfer. They're transfer metals, transition metals. And they transfer something from the metal core, and they give it up as they go through your body. That's why they're all in your blood. And there's a ton of different oxidation states that allows all the different chemistry to happen in your body. Without it, you're done. This is the most elegant system. As you dig deeper and deeper, it just gets stunningly complex. So we have just seen a meteorite with blood in it. What other things can I offer? Well, how about Comet 67P? Here it is right here. This is 10 years ago. That, my friends, is an artery shooting out smoke, basically, which is meat cooking, is blood gases. These are the gases from the tendons that run down along the side of the bone. That is a hip joint. And here's what it looks like right here. This is it right here, and that's what a hip joint is. It's broken right there. This is what it looks like in its fullness. That's a hip joint. Now, in that hip joint, you're going to have a lot of other things. All right, here's what the hip joint looks like. There's the bone head. Then there's the shaft that comes down to this. It's broken here because that's where the attachment is. It just goes away. And it broke right there. So this is the piece here we're going to see. Now, there's got to be blood running up into here, and there's going to be a huge artery running right up your leg, because this is your leg running up here somewhere. There's going to be a lot of blood in there. There's going to be a little skirt of tendon fibers. And then there's going to be an investment, a big investment somewhere on here. You see how it's tangled all up in here, because that's so you can move and you can twist and you can do all those kind of things. Absolutely stunningly elegant and simple at the same time. But you need all of these different stretchable, twistable things, and then you need a solid core, solid tendon, muscle, blood, slurpees. Slurpees are the little things that are in between these little slots, and those also boiled off. So the blood is the vein, the artery, you can see that boiling like crazy. And then we're going to see these little bits shooting out their own gases. And here it is right here. That one there is the artery. And I'm going to show you. They were right there. They actually landed on this thing. And they took tests and everything else of what was in the blood. And now this was a slurpees. And I'll show you these up close. You're going to see the artery, and then you're going to see where this comes out. And don't forget, this is a skirt of tendons. So let's go looking at that. Let's find that artery. We got it around here, artery. There you are. Look at the size of that puppy. This is 40 meters. I figure this is about 500 feet across. And all these little balls are the entrances of the blood into this thing. It's got to service every single cell in your body, the blood. So all these little passageways are moving into this area where the muscle basically attached. All right, now, so we saw that. Now we're going to see where and that's this one here. That's this one boiling off. And they only do this when the sun hits them exactly the correct way. Now these are from those tendons. Every one of those little splits is where there was something boiling off of. Hold on, where are we? Here it is right here. These right here are tendons. Each one of these straps. And they came down. Remember I said there was a skirt of tendons? There they are. That's a skirt of tendons. And then there was a bundle of muscle or another tendon bundle, whatever, coming up to attach it so that it could this way and pull back that way. And did all kind of special little things. And the head, of course, is not flush with blood like these other spots. This is nothing more than erosion from blood. And I think this was where it attached to muscle, because muscle has a lot of blood, and there appears to be a lot of blood there. Tendon is very little blood, almost none. So this is the whole thing right here. Now this sucker is absolutely enormous. It is on top of Raleigh, North Carolina, right there. There's Raleigh, North Carolina. What year this was from, I don't know. But they found this is how big it would be on top of Raleigh, North Carolina. That is it's big. That puppy's big. And it would cause some havoc, but not like the interaction we had with Venus, which caused, I believe, gouged the Grand Canyon. And again, Grand Canyon now is actually in Mexico. It gouged it out, it hit and scraped the whole, all that stuff is gone. It's not, it had to go somewhere. And I can see it piled up into Mexico. I did a video on that the other day. Now, the thing that they just came back with from Bennu, Boulders and Beyond, this is National Science Foundation, Smithsonian, how can we better understand this Bennu, where we are in the universe? What is going on with us? How can we understand? Well, first of all, we have to be able to accept what we find. And that's not being done. All right, I just showed you, I've been asking geologists, astrobiologists, everybody, well, how do you explain this blood inside of these meteorites? And there's no response whatsoever. I said, how do you explain Bennu? And it's got heart muscle. Look at this. This is Bennu. I just talked about Bennu. This is Bennu right here. This is a heart. And they came back with a chunk of this and brought it back to Earth. That round circle right there is a heart valve. So is this. And so is this. They have huge heart valves on them. And the top of the heart comes off from iron banding. It's well known, understood. This is what a heart looks like after this pops off. And it does. It just pops right off. It's basically just glued on there. This is what's underneath. When the tubes come off, you see the valves, which are these valves, which are these valves. This is the tendon, which is this tendon. These are the colors of blood. That is a heart. This is psyche, but it's the same as Bennu. It's a heart. Now they landed on Bennu, grabbed a chunk of it, and came back to Earth with it, and it is heart muscle. This is heart muscle. This is what it looks like. And these blocks are sarcomeres. This is a damaged block. This is supposed to be one nice block like this. This is contracted muscle, and then it's just relaxed muscle. Now the red stuff and this glue, these are called Z-bands. That runs out. It's a gooey, gummy sort of substance. These other little tiny lines, if you can see those, these are lines, these connective tissue. There's connective tissue in here, so there's stability. Connective tissue does not erode, and it is tough as can be. It's tendon, basically, but it's built into these blocks as connective tissue within the sarcomeres. And here's what they look like in a heart muscle. This is a heart. The same type of sarcomeres basically everywhere, where there's a rope style which pulls in like this. Now this would be a rope style. This is cut so that we can see the sarcomeres on their sides. If you cut it down this way and looked into it, you would see ropes. Every one of these is a little rope. So we're cut along this way, which these pull in, so the rope goes that way. What I'm going to show you is it's going to be cut both ways. It's going to be cut this way and it's going to be cut this way, and I'm going to show you what the ropes look like going this way, and we will see the sarcomeres from the other cut. And it's from Comets, I'm sorry, from asteroid Bennu, and it is muscle from a heart, because Bennu is a heart. Now this is Psyche, which is another heart. There's just gigantic creatures, and they talked about them in the ancient texts. We cannot get our heads around this. That's a tube coming out of this heart. These are the heart valves. That is the tendon. These are the colors of blood, the three different colors, the red, the yellow, and the black. That's the transition of blood. These are other chambers of the heart with the tubes coming out of them, not craters. That's a heart, and then that's Psyche. All right, so I showed you the physical look of Bennu, Psyche, what hearts look like, heart muscle, regular anatomical looking muscle, and this is what they came back with when they went deep into into Bennu, grabbed a chunk and came back, bounced off of there and came back with this. This is heart muscle, sarcomeres. And again, this one's cut this way. We're looking down at it. Now, if we were looking into this, we would see the ropes. Remember I told you could see the ropes? This is the ropes cut this way looking in. This is cut that way, looking down at the structure of the sarcomeres. These white layers are phosphate layers, phospholipids, phosphorus in the membranes. These two are slippery membranes that coat the muscle sarcomeres. And a heart is a big wrapped around band, and the whole thing sort of does this by these pulling this way. And in this case, they would be pulling this way. So the whole thing sort of distorts and twists and pulls and pumps and so forth, and does that for your whole entire life. So it better work well. Now this one didn't work so well, and the guy had a heart attack, unfortunately, and I appreciate being able to show these kind of pictures, but the kind of pictures I show usually are from some kind of injuries. That's what they look for. I look for the actual physical structure to compare it to basically rocks. There is nothing but biology that I can find, not a damn thing. And I'm serious, nothing. Zero. Even the Mars blueberries. These are exactly the same as the Moki marbles, which are exactly the same as the interstitium that's in your body, which are exactly the same as the Mars Morse code. This is basically skin, and it's just basically sandblasted off because of the the winds or whatever up there blowing the dust off of there. There's no rain or anything. So here's what you end up with, is this was pinched. This was a little bit pinched. This skin was stretched. And it's just basically dusted off. And these cavities here are not subject to the erosion, which is erosion from, not from water, just from basically being dusted off. That was at one time skin up to here. And it's gone down, and this is how your skin is made. And all these little balls they're just everywhere in your, everywhere. Your entire skin of your body is made with these, and that way you can stretch, you can pull, you can do this and that, and they come back to where the balls were anchored. That's the whole way this works. And I'm telling you, things were just absolutely stunningly large. That is nothing more than the Mars Morse code right there. Exactly what I just showed you. And some of it is stretched this way, whatever. You see the balls, you see the straps, and then all this gooey, fleshy stuff, that's easily eroded. And that's what we're looking down at. Now, these are the balls that are everywhere in your body. They're everywhere. And everything pulls on those. And here they are in the desert, milky marbles. There's nothing but biology. So this was skin at one time of some gigantic creature. And on Earth, we have a lot of rain and moisture, so it eroded away, and the balls just sort of collected in little patches here. Now, this is over in United Kingdom, and it's eroding away, and the skin at the top is collapsing. The balls that were in here are just in the mud, which is nothing more than the red, fleshy stuff that's eroding away. It's nothing more than this right here, same thing. The skin is here, the skin is here. The red gooey stuff is here, the red gooey stuff is here. If I eroded that, the balls don't erode. They would be laying here, which they are laying here. That gooey red stuff has to go somewhere, and this is where it went right here. It is now mud. All right? So we need to completely re-look at the way we look. Yeah, I believe I showed you Bennu. I don't see how anybody can question that. All the evidence they found in here is they have the amino acids, the DNA, the RNA, the uracil, everything there is points to biology. It looks like a heart. It has the sarcomeres. It has the membranes. It has the phosphates. It's a heart. And so is psyche. That's off the table. Comet 67P is a hip joint. I showed you that. Of that, there is no question. I have actually the chemistry right here of what's in there, and it's all iron, different iron oxides, because that's the different levels of iron, of oxygen that's in the blood. Hydrocarbons, this is biology. They claimed, yes, okay, it is biology. What do you want us to do about it? I said, well, there's just not all they could say was organic, so what? Well, the so what means the whole universe, as far as I can tell, is just made of nothing but biology. And even on Mars right here. Remember I showed you all the other stuff on Mars? Well, this is more than Sarcomeres. This is gigantic, absolutely enormous. Continually, over many millions of years, this is Sarcomeres. All the red gooey stuff just dusts out. And all of the connective tissue stays. It's not hard to see that. It's impossible to miss. It's impossible to miss this. And if they are missing this, you got people that don't know what they're doing. And there should be some kind of interdisciplinary, they should understand the chemistry, the biology, basically it's chemistry and biology. They just can't open their eyes big enough. And you show them the blood in here and they just glaze over and it's all over. So it's time to look at this deeper. I can see every one of these, not a single one of these is not biology. This here, Mars crab, It's right here. And it's servicing these sarcomeres because it's an artery. And right above it is the vein. It's down here. This is a blow up. But here it is. It's all the red dust, all the sarcomeres. I've shown all these. And there's on Earth too. Everywhere on Earth is the same gigantic stuff. There's hearts and lungs and stuff laying around. They're just huge. There's a guy standing there saying, I wonder what that is. In order to really do scientific examination of this, you have to examine, you have to look. Now, I was talking about these meteorites, and I say everything in space is biology. This right here, that is the connection between two bones. You see that right there? That ball would fit in this. And then that ball would fit into another thing that was here. And the two of them rock back and forth. That's a connection they call a ligament. That's what that is. You see, this fed some fluids into it, which is probably blood. Umao is a finger. That's a finger. And that's the vein. Right there's the artery. These two right down here are the tendons that run right over the top of the knuckle. This is the knuckle. Right there, coming up to here, where you see these little splayed out things. That's where the tendon splits into a million pieces. And there's that right there. That's the hinge. All right, on this side, all those little million pieces fit into that bone. I have a bone here. Hold on. You see what happens? Well, this is not a good one. Hold on. All right. You see this right here? That's basically just like this. The tendon comes down here in a flap, and it's just a nice solid flappy looking thing. You see it? And right at the very end, it splits into about a bazillion little tiny pieces, and every one of them goes into one of those little holes. And you say, oh, come on. Yes, it does. One flat plate comes down, which is the tendon, and to anchor it, it goes in there, and they end up attaching. You see, this is the attachment behind here. That is right there, and this one would be right here. Same thing. And this one runs down. That's the tendon. Otherwise, you couldn't do this, and you couldn't flex. That's the flex point. This right here is an apical tuft. An apical tuft is the very end, and there's a bunch of little balls that lock in here because they're extra tendons that let you do other little twisties. And this skin right here is grip skin. That layer is it's almost like a rubber glove. You have them on your hands too, and your feet. It's grip skin. So we're looking at this. Now they say, oh, that's just an artist. Well, yes and no. This is what they call like a 2D CAT scan. They take pictures. This is tumbling, and they get every single different shadow effect. And then they compile it into one big piece, and it makes it just elegantly easy to see. All of that is these little grippers to hold the tendon in place. You got to anchor it against something. Tendons anchor on one spot, and then they're attached to another spot, whether it's bone or whether it's muscle, whatever. So that's Avi Loeb's Umao, which is another body part. And here's another one that came through space. they're certifying this is a meteorite. I don't disagree with that, yes. And the reason they are, because inside here they can see there's metals. What was in here that was blood, primarily, converted into metals, because this thing got pretty hot. That's a vein, or an artery, one or the other. And this is the artery or the vein. All right, the bone was down here. This was, I have a CAT scan of exactly the same thing. Watch this. Where is mine? Hold on. Here it is right here. This is, each one of these is a tendon. That's the bone. Blood and blood. Now look at this little notch and everything. Look what they got. It's the exact same thing. And you got something going on both sides here. This right here is where the bone was. You see this discoloration here? Around? And then sort of a nice central core there. That was where the bone was. Virtually identical to mine, only this one turned into iron-ish. That's why it's not completely one big slab of iron. And you know, I think they did acid etch this, but it just brings out that there are chunks of metal dispersed throughout here, because that's what happens in fingertips and so forth that are not. If this was a lung or a heart or a liver, it would just be that flat piece of metal. But this is not. This is a little different, but there's still a lot of blood in here. Now look very carefully at the outside ring here. You see how that coloration is totally different than the edge around it. The average untrained eye may not see that, but we certainly do, don't we? Now this is exactly the same thing. This is the finger I have here. This is a CAT scan. You see right up in here? We're looking at the membrane, basically, that surrounds the bone, which would be a bone right in the center here, heading out towards the tip of the finger. And this is the flange at the bottom. And the bone comes down and it flanges out at the bottom. This is it right here. That is identical to what they found in theirs. There is no difference. This was a fingertip at one time, and you can see when they held it up next to you, those two are vein and artery, one or the other. And it looks like it comes up this way. Apparently they cut this right off this end here. It doesn't look like that though. I don't know. That's confusing me, I gotta be honest with you, because that does not look like it came off the end of this. Whether they're just showing this and saying we cut them all the time and they look, inside they look like this when they're etched, I don't know. Maybe this was cut and then this was etched, but it doesn't seem to have the same, well, it might. That little architecture there, the round spot here, I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest with you. Actually, I think this can go this way, because this is that round spot. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm not positive, but I can tell you what, I would go along with the fact that yes, that's been through space, and I would say it's a meteorite. That I would say too. When they turn into metal like that, and they're still body parts, they're meteorites. And there's just no denying this. This can't be denied. And they say they cut them all the time. They etch them. They look at them for all the different metals, and they all have that. They all have metals in them. I don't care what you say. If you look at them carefully, you're going to find it. I had another ones here. Well, I don't know where they are, but anyway, they all, if you look carefully at these things, they all contain, you know, metals and iron, and they're all meteorites. They're body parts. And this is a body part too. It's a big rock, but that's the tip of a finger. And it's been DNA tested, and of course CAT scan, both 2D and 3D. This is the 2D. That's the outside of everything, looking at it with all that different angular shadow stuff. That's why it's so excellent. You can see excellent quality. When you get into the 3D, you're inside. The only thing that's different inside of these is you can see the little ring around where the bone was. Mud fossils are different. The same thing with this. You wouldn't see a regular bone-looking structure in here because it's transitioned. Membranes don't transition the way other things do, even like this giant hair follicle. The muscle attached here. You see all those little spots there? Tendon is a total different animal than the rest of things. That's where the muscle attached for this hair follicle. That's the sebaceous gland, that's the root, the papilla, and the hair shaft. It's 2 inches wide. I have stuff here that's just phenomenally enormous, and it's all testable or has already been tested. I have 3 DNA tests, 2 CAT scans. 7 CAT scans. 2 of the DNA tests were giants. One of them had a 3-foot-long fingertip. Flawless, gushing blood come out of it. Still had the fingerprints on and the fingernail. Shown it a bazillion times. And the other was, another one was this long. And the other one was this finger, which is about that long. It has about a 4-foot wide hand. I don't show the hand here, but it's a good size hand, and there's no denying it. It's just a refusal by academia to do their job. I think I'm going to leave it with this, but this is the fabric that's on a lung. This is a lung. It's been DNA tested. It's been CAT scanned. There's the latch. It's flat because it was a terrestrial lung, died in the Great Flood, and everything eroded off it. It even still has the aortic arch impressed into the lung because the heart was still here when it died. Everything boiled off the flesh. Now, this I have in my shop, and it can easily be tested. It's hard to believe that anybody can miss this. That is, I believe, a shoulder joint or something, an attachment of a big bone here. This ball and this ball right here make an attachment to this, so that this can go this way, that way, or this way, and this way. It's an elegant design. Because your arm has to go this way, and that way, and this way, and this way, and all kinds of different ways. Which it will, using this attachment. So this is say the shoulder. This is the structural anchor that holds it here and still allows this to pivot this way and that way, which is your tendon, which is here. All right, so this is the tendon. Right there is that pivot point. You see it? This is the tendon. This is tough stuff. That's why it's brown. There's no blood in here. That's tough stuff. But it does have the little slats in there, because it has to go this way and that way, so they have to slide amongst themselves when they go this way or that way. And there's synovial fluids in there, and that's what was boiling off of Comet 67P, where the tendon was invested. Now you got blood. Totally different story. Blood is flushing this muscle. This is an abrupt transition. This is the muscle coming down. These are the bundles of fibers in the muscle. And this abruptly transitions from, you can see a little bit here. You see it comes out here, and then there's this transition here, which makes it less mineralized out to here. And then it just turns into muscle bundles, and they just erode away. But there's a ton of blood coming out of here servicing this, just like there was on the Mars crab. And if you could look at this close enough, you'd see these are sarcomeres in between the white layers, which are the connective tissue. Because where it first anchors, you still got a lot of connective tissue, and then it turns into red muscle. You see that? These are the transition metals that I was showing you. These are just some of them. But there's those different oxygenation states, and they create these different colors. And the Earth is covered with biology, and these are some of the craters that are not craters from impacts. These are craters from biology. And they have different colors because they have different secretions and so forth. And these are the different nickel sulfate and potassium, so forth. All of that, these are the copper sulfate. These are the different things that are in your body that transition and move things throughout your body to bring and remove things. That's what the transition metals do. They have what they call ligands. You see this? All of the metals go in the center, and they have charges on them. And they take on these different molecules, and they hold on to them with these different oxygenation states. They call it ligands. And they drag them around through the body. Electrons are arranged around the nucleus. Transition metals, unlike other metals, have partly filled orbitals so that they want to collect somebody. They hold up to 10 electrons. When ligands are present, some d orbitals become higher. You don't have to know any of this stuff. All it means is they're holding on. They're pinchers. And they pinch with electrons. And then when they get where they want to deliver that thing, whoever they deliver it to gives them a couple of carbon dioxide or whatever, and they give them a couple of oxygens. Whatever the transition is, it is a transition. And that's how nucleophilic invasion and transition works. And you need enzymes to do that. Enzymes are biology. You need all this stuff to work together. And it all starts out with dipole electron flood theory, too. I mean, the whole thing is one big gigantic ball. You can't separate one from the other. You got to know how these things work. What's this +2, +3, 4, 5? Those are oxygenation states. So anyway,